Okay, how to optimize your LinkedIn profile in 2019. Now, if you have seen my video on how to network on LinkedIn in 2019, I would highly recommend it because this is a second part almost, because you need to have a good, compelling profile on LinkedIn to do anything. If you don't have it, then it's not going to work. It's the same concept almost as a landing page. If you're not a marketer, the landing page means when you drive people to visit that page. It could be a website, it could be a specific web page. You want people to look at the information, understand what the story you're trying to tell, and then take certain action. That could be sign up for an email list, that could be call you, that could be donate, buy, that could be sign up for an ebook, give their email, could be a bunch of different things. But the point is that the page is designed in a certain way and it has a certain flow that is very much aligned with the way that humans think and the way that humans really interact. The same goes for the LinkedIn profile. It is very, very similar. So it's really important. And I think it's been a while when people, and me included, I thought LinkedIn profile was just like a resume, right? You have to have like it's a resume and it's just a resume online. It's no longer a resume online because LinkedIn is a content platform. It's a content machine. And if you're not really using your LinkedIn profile, you're missing out a lot. Really a lot. And if you're planning on reaching out to people for whatever reason, doesn't really matter what reason, you have to have it really, really well designed. So you could always look at profiles of people who are already super active. That is really great approach. You model what they do, you see how many connections they have, how much engagement they have on their comments, and then just copy their profile, and then just take some of the inspiration from what they're doing, and that's a great start. But let me show you or tell you what is really important and break up each section for creating a LinkedIn profile. So number one is the picture. The picture must be very clear and your face must take the biggest part of your picture, right? So 80%, 90% of your picture must be your face. Very clearly lit, no background that is distracting, white, black, gray, beautiful. But don't really make it anything distracting. It has to be professional, it has to look nice, and smiling is helpful because again, it's a really first impression. And even though it sounds like cliche, believe me, it's super important the way that you come across, the way that you meet people. So when you're done with your picture, you have your background image, and the background image is 1500 by 400 pixels roughly, and that most people leave it as by default as blue or bluish or aqua, and I would not do that. I would recommend to use whatever it is that aligns with your brand, that aligns with whatever you're doing, or with your interest. If you're not doing anything, that could be your side project, that could be another thing that would interest the people you would like to connect with, right? So let's just give you an example. If you're a job seeker, right, and you're looking for a job in marketing, and maybe you're looking for a job in marketing for like content creation. Well, what can you come up with for that banner that will show you that you have certain creativity and you are doing something that you are worthy of that consideration? So I would not leave it I would not just leave it blank because it's a banner ad. You're advertising yourself. If you're not advertising yourself, then you're just wasting your space. Why would you do that? And the way that I would come up with it is, instead of just putting the picture, I would go and create a picture or your picture that could be another picture, and they would say certain words. It would almost be an advertisement, and it will say, here's how I designed whatever, right? Here's how I helped this person increase their website traffic by 500%. Link below, and then just link it below, and then you'll have it in your summary. Well, the reason it's cool is because, look, why wouldn't you not use that as an advertisement? Why would you not use it as a really cool ad that talks about you, that shows that you did something really important, and that is the highlight of your career or of your job, and would be relevant for the future, right? So I would highly recommend consider changing your background picture, consider making it as an ad and making it so people actually want to click on it and learn more. Most people don't do it, so I would recommend that. The headline, really important. The headline, you have a lot of flexibility. Most people make your headlines super short. I would make the headline as long as possible, max out the number of characters you can, and then put in the words that are very easy to understand. They don't have any acronyms. I would just get rid of all the acronyms unless they're very well known, like SEO. Everybody knows what SEO is. I would not even put SEM because some people don't know what it is. And if you're in marketing, but I would get rid of all the acronyms and make it very clear what you're doing based on the most important thing, and then going by your specialties, right? So for example, if you're in marketing, well, what do? Are you creating content? You can say content creator. Then you can say YouTube creator, and then you can say blog writer, or you can say social media expert, but don't use expert because it sucks. You can say social media wizard. Sure, that's fine. And then you can also, so you come up with a few key phrases, and then you use the dash, so it's just easier for people to understand and to break them up, and then that characterize the work you're doing. It could be anything from maybe say marketing strategy, then you can say ideal customer profile, then you can say social media. Great, that's a pretty good start. And then it depends on your role, right? How broad you go, how narrow you go, really depends on what you're working on. But then another point is you want to come up with a certain validation. Can you validate what you're doing so people actually know that you're real? For example, if you are creating like social media, right? You're working on social media. How many followers do you have? Maybe you have 1,000 or 2,000 or 10,000 followers on Instagram or YouTube. Amazing. Put it up, put it there. Say 10,000 followers on YouTube. That's great, because that means that if you said that you are a social media expert or guru, or you are a content marketer, that's great, because it shows that there's a validation right away. Somebody who has that number of followers is very likely knows something about social media. I mean, you could always buy the followers on Instagram, but like I would say the general rule is that it's a good idea. So it's worth doing that. So what else is important? You have a headline, you add them, you have like a few keywords, and then you put the dash and then max out the number of characters. Then you have your summary. Summary generally is pretty straightforward, and I would keep it short and really clear so people really know what you're doing. Instead of putting in a number of paragraphs, a lot of paragraphs that people put, I wouldn't really do that. Always write your summary in first person. Never ever write it in saying Sergey Ross is a marketer that works for XYZ. That just sounds ridiculous. It distances you from anybody else and seems like you are super arrogant and you have a certain opinion about yourself. Would never ever recommend that. Always write it in one, like in the first person. It's the same thing as you're meeting somebody. And the way that I did it, and I'm not saying it's the best, but it's pretty straightforward. I put it at each section, and then I broke it up by dashes, and then I said, so here's what I do today. And then here's some of my specialties. Here's what I do real well. Then I also added my personality. Like what is my personality? Well, I added a few projects that I'm working on. Then I also talk a little bit about sports, and I talk about technology, right? So some of the things that just makes me more human. And the way that you can take it up a notch, and I will update it as well, is instead of just coming up with just facts like I did, you can come up with a cool facts, right? Add a bit of a personality to it. Add a bit of touch. And add a bit of your language to it, but that still is easy to understand. And I haven't done it. I will do it, and this is just a copywriting touch that I'd say will be really effective. And generally, I would say anything under 3 paragraphs, anything under 3 short paragraphs is a really good approach. When you say, here's what I do, I am a marketer and I'm working on XYZ today in the company here in the company X, and I'm responsible for this and this and this, or I'm working on XYZ. My experience is primarily based in this area, and this area, and then I'm interested in whatever. You can just put a few of your interests and then maybe your side projects, right? Beautiful. That works really well. You can add a few fun facts that and use that. Attach your projects, right? You can always, in your summary, you can attach your project. It could be a website, podcast, Instagram, YouTube, anything. But I would highly recommend to attach it, and then when you did, you rename it. You rename your the name, and so you can make it a little bit more compelling, because most people don't do it. They just put a link, and then whatever it says in the link, it will pull into LinkedIn. So it will be just not really nice to look at. When you're looking at the summary, the actual caption will say something like weird. So I would just say it's very easy to change. You just click on the pencil after you added that summary project, and then you just rename it. Awesome, now it works, and then it's just easier for people then to understand what you're doing. Job experience, the next one. So job experience is pretty straightforward, but here's what you can do. And again, you just have to use some of your imagination and things like that. When you're putting your role, right? Like the way that I put it is marketing operations. Well, great, marketing operations, but you can also, because you have this bold title, right? And most people will almost never read the description, whatever you did. Doesn't even matter how well you've written it, unless it's a human resources person that already bought into you, that they already read other stuff and they know that you're a good fit. Most people will never read it, the actual job description. So if you put something in the title, well, it's more likely that other people will read it. So you can say, maybe you can list the software that you use or any other super important things that will be relevant for people who will be viewing your profile. So I know that, people who are looking at my profile, there's a good chance they will be interested in my experience with Salesforce, Outreach, Parta, that type of software, right? Marketing automation software. So I just put marketing operations, then I said dash, and then I listed the software that I used. Really cool, free, and then it gets attention. And nobody reads the job description. For those few people who read job description, it's a pretty straightforward process. It's like, what was the situation? What did you do? And then what did you improve on? What was the result, right? So just add in quantifying your result. It's always a good idea in a very concise way, making it really simple to understand. And another one is when you have your job experience that is outside of your company, right? Maybe you did something voluntarily, then you can have another creative approach. The way that I did it for Apple, I was testing iOS software, different beta builds, and just purely fun project. I'm not an engineer, but I like software. I really like testing software. So I was doing that for a couple of years, and I just well, why don't I put it in my LinkedIn? So I did, but then how does it stand out? It really doesn't. Everybody tests iOS builds. And so, but I was not just a tester. I was very, very passionate tester. I was really passionate. I'm passionate about the software and hardware a lot right now. Same about marketing. So what I did is I was really disappointed with one feature that Apple had, and I emailed Craig Federighi, who is their SVP of software engineering. He presents many times at Apple events, mostly software. I think he's doing some hardware as well right now. But I emailed him, he didn't respond, and I emailed him again, and it was like a very long email detailing exactly what the issue is, and he responded back. And it was like amazing. Wow, like SVP of engineering, Apple responds back. And I was back then, I wasn't even in Canada. I was back in Ukraine, in Eastern Europe, and I didn't really speak English well. But luckily he understood what I said. So the way that I put it in the description is I said, well, Apple iOS software tester, then dash, got feedback from SVP of software engineering, Craig Federighi. Amazing. Nobody cares really about what you were tested, but the fact that you talked to SVP of Apple, that's awesome. That really shows something about the person, and I think this is a really important highlight. Again, for education, I would just say highlight things that are important, and any metrics you had, any cool projects, any initiatives that you took is always important to show. Attaching whatever projects you have is good, worth doing, and again, don't forget to rename the caption after you do it. And two other things that I don't think are really important when you are creating a LinkedIn profile is accomplishments, right? So accomplishments are, they're nice, but I wouldn't really worry too much about accomplishments unless you are like getting 10,000 views of your profile every day, then maybe. But otherwise, I would say, sure, if you have any, attach them. I mean, obviously it's a good idea, but I don't think that makes a huge difference. Personally, I don't think really people will go, because it's at the very, very, very bottom. Most people not gonna go there. They will just look at your title, your picture, maybe scroll to your summary max, maybe look at your experience, but 99 people don't go below that. Another point that I think is really overrated is endorsements. Endorsements, I don't really know who uses that, why. Like, I haven't seen any difference if you have 0 endorsements compared to 99 plus that a lot of people have. I don't see any difference. Is there a difference in the algorithm? Personally, I don't think so. I would be really surprised if there is. So that is how you create your LinkedIn profile for 2019. And I hope, guys, this was helpful. This is just the very basics, the most important things that will work. Very practical. And yeah, just go in and update it and just find profiles that look cool. Pay attention to what I just mentioned and you're gonna rock. And that way you're able to, whenever you're reaching out to people on LinkedIn, your connection will be compelling. It will be relevant, it will be professional, and it will make a lot of sense. Again, if you like the video, comment on it on LinkedIn below or send me an email. You will see address right here on your right. And I would love to hear from you. I would love to hear how are you doing it, or maybe your challenges with LinkedIn. I'm here to help you and answer your questions. Thanks, guys, and I will see you in the next video.